Hello, welcome to the Gab and Jules show. No Gab today. So look who's come down from Manchester to be with me. Nedum Onuoha. Thank you so much, man, to be here.
It's good to see you. It's a nice shirt.
Oh, he's the semi-finalist of the Champions League shirt.
Of course,
you know,
of course. Is that what you celebrate these days, yeah?
Of course, man. Sorry, Villa fans. We come to this a little bit later, but I guess we have to start in Madrid for the second leg between Real Madrid and Arsenal. A lot of talk about remontada before, a lot of talk about what happened in the first leg and the 3-0 win for Arsenal at the Emirates. And really, there was no surprise in the end, right? Because Arsenal were still too good, too much better.
Absolutely, yeah. I totally agree. I think going into the game, the remontada, you know, all that discussion, they're going to do it again, they're going to do it again. Well, maybe historically, they would have had a team that would make you believe that. But I just didn't believe in this Real Madrid team against Arsenal. It felt to me like it was going to be a game whereby Real Madrid would need the individuals to find moments. But for Arsenal, they go in there as a collective. You know, they're led by someone like Odegaard, who's prepared to defend for 90 minutes if he needs to. Whereas I think from the Real Madrid side, it's like you hope that the spark exists from someone. And it feels like through these last few months, Real Madrid, like, obviously they battered City, but at this point, what does that mean to batter City? But they never felt like the Real Madrid that we gotten used to across these last few years, where they would find ways to win games.
Yeah, I agree.
But in some ways, you can understand it. But no, I think credit to Arsenal. I thought they were really, really good, very mature. And as I look at it now, like, their biggest strength is the fact that, like, I think they're a complete team.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, they might not score a ton of goals as much as some people would want to, but I'll tell you what, there aren't many teams that would enjoy playing against Arsenal. We
were together on UK television on Wednesday night to talk about that game. And I think we said the setup defensively was perfect tactically. It was all under control. They never really panicked, even when Vini scored on the rare Saliba mistake, really the rare mistake that any Arsenal players really made. But with the ball as well, okay, Saka misses the penalty, but the Saka goal is great. The Martinelli goals are great. They just moved the ball when they had to. It looked like everything they were doing was just the right thing at that time. The decision-making was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we can look at the stats, or someone could look at the stats and say from the game, like, Real Madrid has so much more possession, they controlled it. They didn't really, because a lot of the possession wasn't really in dangerous areas. And for Arsenal themselves, they were in the right spots. They knew where they needed to be. And at times, you know, they could soak up any sort of pressure. But it was always coming down to Vinicius coming in off the left. Can he shoot? Mbappe coming in off the left. Can he shoot? Trying to find these little 1-2s. But Arsenal was set. And I think, was it 40-odd crosses that, say, PSG put in yesterday?
Real Madrid,
I'm sorry, Real Madrid,
49 or 48,
Like, Arsenal,
and for who as well?
That's what I mean. Who's going to be the one coming into the back post? Like, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
So I think Arsenal do deserve a ton of credit. Obviously, they would have wanted to have more possession overall, but the best moment for me through all that was in the last minute of the game. They've defended a corner. Kivior's headed kick in. Kivior's headed it out. Marino's gotten the ball. Martinelli makes a run in the 93rd minute as if it's the first of the game. And in that moment, to see the difference between the two sides, he probably ran past 4 people as he was running. Real Madrid, you're the ones chasing the game. You need to have the desire to get back. But for Martinelli, he had the desire to have that moment, a 1v1 at the Bernabeu.
We said it was complete collective performance from Arsenal, but we said it even before. They are a better collective, really, than Real Madrid, who are some of individual, really. But if you had to maybe pick 1 or 2 Arsenal players that really, for you, were maybe slightly more outstanding than everybody else, because, again, everybody was good.
Yeah. I think Rice in midfield was magnificent. I think the way that he can sense the danger, the way that he can sort of drive with the ball, the personality he shows to get on the ball and not hide. Because, you know, yourself, Jules, myself, lots of people, anyone that's played football really, it's very easy to hide sometimes. Yeah. It's very easy to not ask for the ball, especially in that sort of environment where a team is believing playing against you, they're going to get something. But I thought he was great. I thought defensively, overall, they were good. And to be honest, like, I liked Odegaard.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a game where he's created a ton of opportunities, but the fact is he was their leader. He's their captain, and he's their captain that's prepared to go and be dogged. I think there was a point where they tried to show a replay when he was marking Asensio from a corner.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, maybe it could have been a pen. But find yourself a number 10 that's prepared to go toe-to-toe with a player like that anyway. I think I was impressed by him, and to be honest, just Arsenal in general. So obviously, we've got to talk about Star Boy Saka. You know, the penalty,
especially after the penalty.
Yeah, listen. Let's call it what it is. The penalty is a disaster.
Yeah,
okay?
it is.
It's a disaster. But he still had an impact in that game. You can see that Alaba wasn't comfortable playing against him. You can see Fran Garcia wasn't comfortable playing against him when that change happened as well. And they always had an out on that side. And the finish for his goal, Jules.
Oh man, I love that little shit.
Obviously, the ball from Marino's top, but the finish.
I know. It's so
top.
sweet.
Yeah.
We will have to talk about Real Madrid, but we can do a bit now, and we'll continue on the Gab and Jules podcast, of course. as disappointing as it was, and I said it was a humiliation for me, it was an embarrassing defeat. Not because Arsenal were not good or they're not a good team, but just from purely a Real Madrid point of view, to play like they did in those 2 legs, which was completely disjointed. There was no plan, no tactics. You mentioned the millions of crosses for no one. That I just find it embarrassing. That it's not take nothing away from Arsenal and their performance, but from a Real Madrid point of view, a team like that has won so much, that is still the reigning champions, still possibly in course for a Liga title, a Copa del Rey title. So not a bad season. It's not like if they were 15th and hadn't won a game for 3 months. It's still Real Madrid, and yet they got schooled.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And I think that is a fair way to describe it, because there was a point where, because of the last, say, 10 years, you have a belief that Real Madrid would find something at some stage. They'll be able to turn the screw. Like, we've seen them score multiple goals in added time in games. We've seen them really push teams back. But it just wasn't there. I think, to even sum it up, when we were watching the game yesterday, I think it was in the 47th minute, Madrid had a corner, it got cleared. And next thing, there's just 2 Madrid players on the halfway line, and everybody else is just standing in the box.
So 2-8.
Yeah, 2-8. Just a 2-8. And you're like, this, I don't know, maybe the clock's broken, but this doesn't seem like the right time to do that. And as you say, when you look at Madrid throughout this entire competition, I think these stats are correct. So they played 14 games.
Yeah.
They lost 6 of them.
Yeah.
They conceded 22 goals in 14 games. This isn't the Real Madrid that we're used to seeing. It's not the Real Madrid that, say, would find moments and, show a little bit of magic or something like that. And it was poor. Given the talent that they had, all the different sections within the field just felt separate.
Yeah.
The midfield, the defence, the attack. It's 3 separate versions of Real Madrid. And if they're to be successful in the future, all has to come together.
Well, let's continue a little bit on Real Madrid, because I know the story is Arsenal, and really we said they deserve a lot of credit. But the story is also that the reigning champions, who've won 6 out of the last 12, have reached 10 semi-finals of the last 12 years, are out as early as the quarterfinals, and maybe not so much how early it is in the way that they got knocked out, because 5-1 on aggregate never really looked in the style, really. I know there's the chance for Mbappe in the first leg at 0-0, when Bellingham gets the ball and that through ball, and then Mbappe hit the ball at Raya. But really, they were never in it. They were second best pretty much the whole 180 minutes. Is Carlo Ancelotti, who still has a year left on his contract, because his contract runs until 2026, this is also his failure, right? And maybe nobody, not even Pep, not even Klopp, not even Arteta, whoever you want, could make this team work with that front 4, because I really believe, a bit like what we used to see at PSG when Messi, Neymar and Mbappe were there, this is not a team. It's just a front 4 who don't defend much, who attack very individually, like, let's give the ball to Vinicius, let's see what he can do. Let's give the ball to Rodrigo or Kylian. And maybe nobody could have sorted this mess, really.
That's a good question to ask. I think it's obviously Ancelotti is hugely experienced, hugely successful and so on, but the dynamic of that forward line, it just doesn't work, in my opinion, against teams like Arsenal. I think it could work against other teams whereby, like, the talent gap is bigger. But say, as we saw yesterday, for example, the times when Mbappe is squaring up Saliba, but Saliba's going to win most of those, so it's fine. It's a familiar adversary, whatever. So I think it will have to go down as his failure, obviously. I think for the way that they approached that second leg, didn't really feel like a team that were ever going to score 3 goals.
Yeah.
How were they going to be breaking them down? You've seen times where, there'll be a long ball played. Hopefully someone wins a second ball and they go and do this. But we're talking about Real Madrid here with some of the best players in European and world football. So I think there is going to be something that's going to be on him, obviously. This competition, they are the kings of Europe. There's no discussion.
It's for sure.
It's one of those objective things. That's just who they are. So I think for them to lose 5-1 on aggregate to an Arsenal side who many people a few months ago didn't fancy at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it does need to be looked at properly, just because you'd think they'd Real Madrid would have the firepower at this stage in the season to be able to do more than this. But again, I'm not sure. What do you think?
So I don't think he would be there next season. I think this is on him in a way to not have found...
Would you think he'd want to be there next season, given the situation of the team right now?
I think if things have to change anyway.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the players, how this squad was built. I know it's Real Madrid, and that's what they do as well. They sign Galacticos, they sign the superstars, and they make them work together. And and usually win, although they've had Galacticos before, we didn't win much
Yeah, for
together.
sure.
Because, as we've been saying so many times, it's not because you just add up individual talent that this is going to make a winning team. You need more, as we saw with Arsenal, who are a better team collectively, more cohesion, better structure, better just team spirit overall. So maybe if the club was to say to Ancelotti, listen, okay, Vinicius is going to go for the sake of it, or Rodrigo is going, you can sign the midfielder that you want, because this is on Carlo 100% for never finding the answer and the key really to.
Do you think there is an answer with the squad that he has?
I think you had to drop one of that front four.
Okay.
I don't care if you have to drop Vinicius, if you have to drop Rodrigo, if you have to add Camavinga and Valverde and Tchouaméni to have a more balanced midfield and a more balanced team, full stop, because the front four I just don't think is good enough, doesn't defend enough, Mbappe in the Champions League this season, which is not new because we saw that in Paris, I know, runs in average per Champions League match 6 kilometers.
That's a lie.
6.2 kilometers,
That is a lie. That is a lie.
6.2 kilometers.
That is a lie. Take
How?
that back. Take that back. That is a lie.
In the first leg, as a team, they ran 13 kilometers less than Arsenal last night in a game that they have to win. So you have to put the intensity, the energy, the pressing, the counter press, everything. This is the game where you have to outrun the opposition. I think they ran 9K left than Arsenal.
Did you say no? Did you say 6 kilometers?
6.2 or 6.4.
There was somebody in the Arsenal team at the stats at halftime who'd run 6.2 in the first half.
I know.
They're playing the same game, yeah?
Yeah, they played the same game. And I know as a
Do you know what? It was Odegaard. Odegaard was 6.2.
I know, it's mad. And I know Rice or Rice would run more than a number 9, whoever that is, Haaland, Mbappe, Lewandowski, or should run more. But this is ridiculous.
Yeah, obviously, like when a team's doing well, those stats don't matter.
Yeah.
But in reality, when you come up against a good collective, then those things really do matter. Not least of all, for example, we can talk about Mbappe, but when Martinelli makes his run from the edge of the box in the last minute of the game, why is he running faster than everybody else?
I know.
There are players.
You said when we were watching, like Luka Modric was one of the players who's jogging.
It's like,
you said you don't want.
I'm not asking him to be Usain Bolt,
yeah.
but
come on,
please. And then like Fran Garcia sees it late. Other players like, well, we can't do it anymore. And that running stuff really, really does matter, because at halftime in the game, the top two for running distance for Arsenal, it was Marino and Odegaard. Yeah. And you could make a case that that's sort of Arsenal's front two. The Real Madrid front 2 or 3, you couldn't even see their numbers. They were not in the top anything. So that sets the tone. If you've got a team where your attackers work that hard, then it means that everyone behind them will work hard as well.
Yeah.
But when that's the case from Real Madrid, like, I don't know, like for Ancelotti, maybe we're there next season, maybe he won't be. But whoever comes in next, there's going to be a lot of pressure to find the right formula if all these people do remain. Because as we've seen throughout most of this season, there are times when they get away with it. But there's never been a really long spell where they've looked far and away as good as we think that they could have been.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on Mbappe, as you know, as much as I love him, not his night again last night. I think 5 games in a row now where he doesn't score in all competitions. The first leg was not his game either. He had that chance that we mentioned earlier, didn't take it. He obviously left PSG to come to Real Madrid, which was his dream. But also he went there to win the Champions League and to win the Ballon d'Or and to win big trophies. He will end up with PSG still in the competition and being a better team without him, really collectively. And Real Madrid not being as good as they were last season, for example. I don't think it's all on Kylian if they have regressed. Kroos not being there and not having been replaced. The Carvajal injury is a massive blow, of course. Militao's injury to some extent too. The way the squad was built, we said that. So there's aging players too in that squad. So there's a lot of other issues than Mbappe. But again, last night was not good enough, right?
No, not even close to being good enough. And, you'd think coming to Real Madrid will give you the best chance to do well in the Champions League. But this is one of the worst Champions League campaigns we've seen Real Madrid have in many, many years.
Yeah.
As you said, he's not totally at fault for that. But you would have thought they'd be able to elevate them in some way. I think maybe we saw it against like Man City or whatever in 2 rounds ago. But in reality, there have been certain games where they've just been like scraping by.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you do the comparisons, you say with Paris Saint-Germain, people saying PSG look a better side. How is Mbappe going to take that?
I know.
They do look a better collective, look like a better side from that standpoint. And he's a star. Like, he is a star. He's one of the best forwards in world football. But now he's ended up in this particular season having one of the worst campaigns that Real Madrid have seen in the Champions League in recent years. You have to take some sort of brunt on that.
Yeah,
but then,
I think so.
But then it's the squad stuff as well, as you say.
Yeah, I just not sure how much he, for somebody so smart, and he's really, really intelligent. I just don't know if he's the kind of guy to say, okay, like Thibaut Courtois said something really interesting after the game yesterday. He said, we all have to, which is players say a lot, especially after disappointment. We have to look at ourselves now and see, that we're not doing enough for this team and we have to do better, all of that. He also said that they are just individuals who are trying to play and they don't play as a team. I thought Courtois was really good in his post-match analysis. Not long after the game had just finished, but saying we put crosses in, but we don't have Joselu, who is obviously very good in the end, a big guy.
Yeah.
Instead, like you said, it was easy for Kivior and Rice and Partey and Saliba to just clear all those crosses. But I'm not sure if Kylian, I don't know how Kylian reacts to that. Is Kylian going to say like, well, it's not my fault here because I don't get the service and clearly the team is not clicking and working around me anyway. So could I have really done more?
Yeah.
Or if he's going to actually say, this hasn't been good enough.
That's a super interesting point, because I think for the way that some football clubs work, in fact, it's probably many, a lot of times you can tell how good they are as a collective based on whether you can tell someone something openly. So say, for example, if people aren't trying enough and you can say that to someone, firstly, the person you're saying it to will understand that they need to do more. But if you're in a place whereby you can't criticize certain people, but those certain people are the ones who either make or break the whole team, then everyone's treading on eggshells. Yeah. That's not like a cohesive team.
Yeah, that's not good.
And that's like a reliance. And if you are in that front line, you think you're doing more than enough and you blame other people for the shortcomings, then it's the manager that needs to say to people, this is what's going on, because otherwise you'll always have the same problems.
And this could be at the heart of what Real Madrid are not working well this season either, is because they all look at each other and say, well, it's not on me. This is not my fault. Like, there was a lot of nervosity, we thought, watching the game. Jude Bellingham at times just went in and, it was okay. It was all legit, but went in hard on some tackles and stuff. He looked frustrated. Yeah. And I think he should be, because I said it after the first leg, you have Jude Bellingham in your team and yet you hardly use him. You use him to make those runs almost as a second striker, but surely in the build-up, phase, you could use him. The guy is so good on the ball. So he feels a little bit out of all of it. We saw Rudiger being Rudiger, I guess, but could easily have been sent off.
I'd say he should be sent off. I think there was a stamp on Lewis Kelly.
Yeah,
I think that should be a red, I think it's just, I don't know, with Rudiger, with Bellingham in that game, there were times where we were trying to assert some level of physical dominance.
Yeah.
And if everybody does it, then maybe you're playing against prime Atletico Madrid or something in the Metropolitano. But then when you've got people up front who aren't going to track back anyway, then you just got two individuals trying to do that thing to try and intimidate an opposition. It's so broken, honestly.
If we go back just to Arsenal, just to finish it off, the only, I guess, little negative of the night was the yellow card that Thomas Partey got right at the end of the game. Was something that he was not involved in. It's a foul from Rudiger on Merino, and Partey just comes and basically kind of defend Merino a little bit and goes after Rudiger, who got a yellow for that foul. That yellow meant that he would be suspended for the first leg against PSG in the semi-final. Partey, I think, has been outstanding in the last 3 months or so in that holding role. This team without him is not the same. You can put Jorginho there, you can put Rice a little bit deeper. There's a lot of options that Arteta can do and use. But how a blow is it?
Yeah, so it is a big blow. Arteta's settled upon a group of that in that midfield that works really well for him. Sometimes he might play Jorginho, but that's history. It's Partey, it's Rice, it's Odegaard. The same way you've got Martinelli and Saka. If he could, they'll be the people that are playing. So for him to be missing such an important leg, that first leg in terms of setting the tone, to have something to take to Paris in that second leg, that is massive. And I think just then when we were talking about, say, the attitudes between players in terms of when someone's messed up or not, as soon as Partey gets the yellow card, Declan Rice is in his face saying, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Partey takes it because he knows he's made a mistake. And I think for him to be missing that tie, and now Arteta has to think of something different. That's a different profile of player.
Yeah, exactly. You have to change something. You are forced to change something.
Which you wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you wouldn't want to do. That's a huge shame. He's somebody that should know better.
Yeah.
But again, within football, we all make mistakes. And it's just a shame for him because that's a massive mistake. And hopefully from their perspective, it doesn't end up costing them across the two legs.